Usher and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
Another chance. Wide awake, we face the day. The dream is over. Or has it just begun?
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our next guest, who is an amazing musician, artist, and everything badass. So let's welcome to the show, Mick Blankenship. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for asking.
Hey, so first I want to say right off the bat that when you go try to attempt to do silent lucidity, you better be really good, because that is a hard song to sing, at least in my opinion. But you freaking nailed it, man. Like, don't tell him, but it's almost better than Jeff.
I won't tell him you said that.
So what made you pick that song to cover?
Well, I'm a huge Queensrÿche fan, and it was really tough to decide, but I felt like, I don't have a lot of ballads in my catalog. And whenever I do a song like that on social media, especially like cover a song or on TikTok or whatever, the ballads do the best for whatever reason. I don't know. And then I just decided that I always felt like I just had something as like a special bond with that song, I guess.
It is a badass song, but yeah, you definitely nailed it. And speaking of TikTok, what did it feel like with your dog jumping off the roof?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I have a German Shepherd puppy. He's 6 months old, and he scared the crap out of me, man. I thought he was going to leave Earth when he did it, but he's fine. It was about a 12-foot drop, I think, but he jumped right off of it and just kept on going. I don't know.
He must be part like cat, because
I guess, man.
I've actually had this joke on my live radio show, like asking the listeners and viewers, okay, so how many flights up can a cat jump off and still land no problem? So
wow, probably a lot.
Yeah, and I forget what the exact. There is actually an exact like how many floors that they can handle, but I can't remember what it is. But I'm thinking a dog like jumping that much, I can't even imagine that. Just walked away like nothing happened.
Yeah, he didn't even limp. Like he just he landed, and I heard a little bit of a yelp, but then he just got back up like we were playing a game and then took off running.
Wow.
Damnedest thing I ever saw, man.
I used to have a pug, and all the time since it was a puppy, if cars drove down the street, it would like run like a freaking bullet and like right up to the wheel, to where her nose was literally like a centimeter from the wheel as the cars like driving. We always used to be like, and there's nothing you can do at that point. So that's why I was seeing that TikTok, I was feeling that, because there's nothing you can really do at that point. Like, that's wild. You need to write a song about that.
That sounds like a country song for sure.
Yeah, that definitely is a country song. Oh man. So tell the listeners a little bit about you that have maybe never heard your music, and basically what makes you unique from other artists.
Oh goodness. Well, I kind of fell into this category. I don't even really know how to describe it, but I'm really in love with grunge music and nu metal music, and a lot of that type of music bleeds through. And I feel like I try to push the envelope as much as I can in a modern way. So if you are into bands like Disturbed and Shinedown, Alice in Chains, and Queensrÿche, those are a few of my absolute favorites. I feel like I take a little bit from each of those guys, and I try to put it in my original music. And then, obviously I want it to sound like it was written in 2025, not 1995. So
Right.
I try to make it as modern as possible. But, I feel one of the things I'm most proud of is I feel like I have my own sound. I don't, for better or for worse, I don't think I sound like anyone out there right now. You can hear the influence, I believe, but
I think that's true of any artist. Like, if there's no way you could not hear some kind of influence, you
yeah,
know. But I love that what you said, because I find that a lot of music nowadays in 2025, it is hard to differentiate. I remember, like, okay, so I was into metal in the 80s, and I remember when, the older generation would be like, oh, it all sounds the same, like a bunch of noise. I'm like, no, Metallica and Anthrax don't sound the same. Slayer doesn't sound the same as them either. But now I do hear bands that they use this like kind of, I call it an algebraic equation formula to make their music.
yeah,
And I don't find that with you, because listening to your music, there's depth to it. There's definitely, it's your artistry coming out.
I'm very proud of that.
And you should be, because it's like a rare thing nowadays. And I think that's what makes a real musician. Anybody can hit a couple buttons and make music, but it takes a real musician. And listen, I played drums, I played guitar, I sang thrash metal. I sucked at all three. I probably would have been great if they had TikTok back then, because I'm really good I'm a real techie, so I could easily make music but I would never. Like, to me, you need to actually be a musician, know how to play the instrument. Doesn't mean you can't use elements in it.
Sure.
But it shouldn't be 100% of it.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So Queensrÿche, interestingly enough, I remember when me and my friends, when the first EP first came out and we heard him.
I own it.
Oh, do you? Yeah, cool.
On vinyl.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh my God. We were just like, and we actually thought when we heard it, like before seeing the album, we thought it was a new Maiden song. We thought it was Bruce Dickinson.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. When I first heard it, I was young. When I first heard it, it sounded like vampire metal. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I saw, a little bit later on down the road, they came out with the music videos and stuff. I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Queen of the Reich and all that stuff, man. I was like, I was head over heels in love with that whole album. And I loved them ever since. And then, Empire came out, and to me, they just kept climbing and kept climbing and kept climbing.
Well, Jeff became more of an artist, singer, as like he had a great voice, but then he developed it too. Like by the time you get to, like, maybe Silent Lucidity wouldn't have sounded the same had it been on the first EP, Yep. And I think that's what happens, and it should happen. Like, you got to grow as an artist. Like, a lot of fans want you to stay a garage band, but if you're a true musician, you don't want to stay a beginner.
That's right.
So tell us about the rest of the album legacy and what people can expect from it and why they should go out and get it.
Well, because it's different, and you should support independent artists. If you believe in them, you should absolutely support
No
them.
doubt.
And always buy direct. I cannot say that enough, because there really is two different worlds out there. There's the music industry, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of everybody else out there. And if you're not signed to a label, most of us know that you're not going to get to play ball with the big guys. So I kind of play ball by myself, and I'm okay with that. And because, I built up a nice community and a nice following. So, but anyway, the album is it's interesting because it's the first time I've actually co-wrote with somebody. So my first two records were written alone. And then once I wrote, like, for instance, the first record, which is called Crown of Apathy, I wrote that in segments over the course of a couple of years. And then I would bring in John Moyer from the band Disturbed. He's the producer on that album. So he would come in after the music was written, and then we would take something good and we would make it better. And so on the next album, I wrote all of that in one long shot during COVID, actually. And then I had John come back in a second time, and he also produced on that record as well. But for the first time, Legacy, the third album that we're talking about, it was co-written with Noah Henson. And for those of you that don't know who Noah is, he plays guitar with Brantley Gilbert, who's a country artist, like a country rock artist. And but before that, he was the guitar player for a Christian metal band called Pillar. And if you ain't never heard of Pillar, bro, you have got to look them up. They are amazing.
I think Brantley's amazing, and I'm a metalhead, but it's funny. I saw him because I cover festivals all over. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I was just covering Punk Rock Bowling this weekend and Social D headline. But this festival where I saw Brantley, he played at and Social D played at. And he was pretty badass. And I'm not.
Yeah, man, if you're one of those people who kind of ride the fence, like you like country and you like rock, that's a good place to be, man.
I like and to that point, I like the new country, like that sounds like rock. Like to me, like you take Miranda Lambert, to me sounds like she could be Lita Ford.
Sure.
That the same vibe. So yeah, totally. And would it feel like writing with somebody else when you were so used to doing it on your own?
It was a bit of a relief. There wasn't a lot of challenge to it other than it was kind of new. And we just had to figure that out, how we would just navigate the writing process because every artist writes different. And funny enough, Noah and I had a side project several years ago. So this is the second time we technically worked together.
Oh, that makes it easier.
This is the first time we actually co-wrote an album together. And so Noah's a pretty well-known producer these days in the Nashville area. And, I made the decision to reach out to him very intentionally because I love the way he writes. I look up to him as a producer, and I feel like he really is one of my favorite guitar players. And, working with him in the past, it just made sense to me. The project we worked on years ago just never went anywhere, but I knew back then that he was a wonderful person to write music with. And he's also literally playing the game right now. He's in it. He's in the game, and he's produced huge artists like Kane Brown, and he's working with other huge artists that are up and coming right now. And he's in the thick of everything. And nice. He really, you know what I mean? Like he's got a good grasp on the modern sound.
Yeah. And I think you've said it a few times. I think it is key, modern sound, because you have to be relevant. I always say that.
That's kind of what I dig about myself, man, is like I feel like I'm a throwback to a lot of the people I have a lot of respect for. If you listen to my music, again, you can hear the influence of Disturbed. You can hear Alice in Chains. You can hear Stone Temple Pilots. You can hear Queensrÿche. I feel like it's all kind of just sprinkled about in my music, which is really really neat for people our age because, we're still looking for new music, even though we're in our 30s and 40s. Right. But it's new but it reminds you of,
it gives you that familiarity.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's to me, the great musicians nowadays. There's been a few that I've heard songs and it's like, man, I know this song, but I didn't really know the song.
I get that a lot.
And I think even your musicianship is throwback, okay? Because I find a lot of musicians nowadays, they're pretty basic. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just more of like, it's just a basic formula. And that art of like really, creating music, not just a song, is not as often nowadays.
Yeah, and I think what happens with that, man, is all these labels, it's a pretty small network, and they all use the same producers and the same mix engineers, and therefore it just sounds like the same thing over and over and over again. Slightly different singers or whatever. At least that's the way it appears to me.
I think also I've talked to a few artists, and like the way you're supposed to write a song nowadays has changed to appeal to the half a goldfish attention span Spotify skip track
Oh
mentality.
yeah.
You know, so it's like it used to be. Okay, you had an intro, you had one verse, chorus, second verse, bridge, solo.
I proudly ignore all of those rules.
Right? That's great, you
I
know,
don't
because
give a
nowadays
damn.
it's just like get rid of everything, just, you know, hit them with the verse real quick, hit them with the chorus, and that's it. Goodbye. You know,
Right.
I think it's some of my most favorite songs in time that if I was thinking that way, I would have never made it to the actual song because you had to wait anywhere from 10 to 60 seconds before you even got to the song.
Yeah, if Rush was trying to release a brand
Right?
new record in 2025, that would be a different story, wouldn't it?
I know, right? That would it'd be kind of weird if like Rush was around this time.
That's
and
what I'm
like,
saying.
you know,
Can you
it's
imagine
like,
a band like that or Queen or something trying to release music now?
or Yes,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh. Yeah.
but even like, okay, so even take Metallica, like their older shit, you know, you take Battery, one of the most brutal songs they have. If you don't wait 60 seconds, you don't know it's a brutal song.
Yeah, it's like 11 minutes long. Who wants to be pissed off for 11 minutes straight? I don't. I love Metallica. It's just that, you know, in 2025, you're right. It's just changed. And, you know, your minute, you know, the minutes and everything. And there's only so much time in a day. And if it's going to be a radio song, it has to be under 3 minutes and all that stuff. And it's, yeah. I don't give a damn about any of that, man. I'm an independent guy, so I don't have to abide by anyone's rules.
And I love that because I also was like very involved in that Sunset Strip 80s scene and watching these record labels and what they were doing to my friends.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody looks at all the glamour and shit, but I remember sitting there and Chrysalis like telling the band, like, you're going to sound like this, you're going to dress like this, you're going to do that. Like everything was planned out for him. And in my opinion, the artist should do the creative stuff. The suits should do the business stuff. I have no problem with the business stuff, but stay in your lane.
Sure.
You know, because I think that's what paved the way for the bands that influenced you. It paved the way for grunge. Grunge would have never happened if it weren't for the record labels destroying metal.
Oh, yes.
You know, but I think now today, grunge has been a great addition to create a newer rock and newer metal that's modern today. Like you could still take that grunge aspect and put it into today's music, and
right. And there's not really anyone doing that right now that I'm aware of. There might be a couple of bands, but it's not really like that's not something you hear on mainstream, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, totally. So how do people reach out to you on your socials, get your music, and connect with you? But most importantly, buy your merch, because they can't listen to my show unless they buy your merch, because that's the only way artists survive, man.
MickBlankenship.com. It's just my name. I'm easy to find. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only Mick Blankenship on planet Earth. So there's that.
How'd that happen? Like,
it's just a rare combination, I guess. I don't know.
I know, right? Because I laughed. There's so many bands that have to like put in symbols and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, well,
run out of names.
I've talked to record labels before, and I've considered a few different ones along the way, but every single one of them, the first thing out of their mouth is, "Well, what's your band name going to be?" And I'm like, Mick Blankenship. they didn't like that at all, man. So, one of the things I feel pretty strongly about is, why would I do that? Why would I pick a band name and disappear? You know what I mean? So to me, my name is very different and it's very memorable, so why would I change?
There you go. And it's not hard to, find, if you don't even have to think about it.
Right. If you Google Mick, M-I-C-K space B, all of a sudden you get all these Google search results of Mick Blankenship.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Like, even if you didn't do that on purpose, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to tell listeners about? Any final words before we go that we haven't covered already?
Just to reiterate, man, that independent artists need your support. If it's not a t-shirt, make sure it's a CD or a digital download or something. I even have the ability for folks to subscribe to me directly on my website, and I have a platform there that's very similar to like Patreon, so they get exclusive content and access to things that other people don't. And early releases, demo stuff that's unreleased, behind the scenes, stuff like that. So
I see, that's all the cool shit too.
yeah, man, it's all right there on my website. If it ain't on there, let me know. I'll put it on there.
Cool means. Well, everybody make sure you subscribe, check out Legacy. If you haven't listened to Silent Lucidity yet, okay, you need to listen to it. Because
the Mick Blankenship version.
Yeah, exactly. Forget the other version.
Oh, don't do that.
All right, man. Thanks for making us great music, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipe Man.
No, thanks for having me, man. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.